BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast, bringing you all the news, views and analysis you need. It's Friday the 27th of December. I'm Kenny Crawford. I hope you had a great Christmas and that your Boxing Day was as enjoyable as St Mirren's.
Chance here for Mooney, lays the ball by, the opportunity, and the goal! Kellen Boydmans drills it into the corner!
We'll discuss what that dramatic defeat in Paisley means for Rangers' season. Also,
here come Hibs, it's in towards Gale, goal! 6 yards out, Gale snaps home into the bottom right corner. Fabulous ball in from the left, and Dwight Gale might just have come up with one of the biggest goals of his career.
How far can Hibs go after their fourth win in 5, the latest coming at the expense of City rivals Hearts? And
today, we have to apologise to our supporters that arrive here, but I hope this was our worst performance of this season and it will not happen again.
7 games now without a win for Aberdeen. What's going on with the Pittodrie club?
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Pleased to say we've got company in the shape of former Hearts, Dundee United and St Johnstone defender Ryan McGowan, currently with Livingston, and sport editor at The Scotsman, Mark Atkinson. Ryan, 22 caps for Australia, and this mild Christmas in Scotland must be reminding you of Adelaide?
Yeah, it's basically the same place, isn't it, with the weather? But yeah, I do question some of my life choices around this time of year when it's dark at 3 o'clock and I'm getting sent pictures from my friends back in Adelaide and they're down at the beach. But no, I had a lovely Christmas, thanks, and yeah, looking forward to the podcast today.
Good. And Mark Atkinson, how was Christmas at Atkinson HQ?
Off on Christmas Day, which is always a blessing at this time of year, but every other day has been at the grindstone. Lots of football to talk about.
We admire your efforts, Mark. We admire your efforts. Lots to discuss with Ryan and Mark, and we'll also hear from Hibs fan Liam McLennan. But let's get stuck in and begin with events in Paisley. Caelan Boyd-Munce's superb strike into the bottom right corner, sealing a late win for the Buddies against Rangers. Ryan, we'll start with you just with a general. How impressive was that victory for St Mirren?
Yeah, I thought it was a very impressive win. They've kind of been going about their business quite quietly all season, but I always feel that Stephen Robinson gets his signings right and sets his team up, especially at home, to cause problems, and that's what they did yesterday. They did have to soak up a lot of pressure in the second half, but I felt that wouldn't say that they were always comfortable, but I felt like they just kind of had Rangers at an arm's length, and then to go on and get that winner right at the end was like you said, a very good day for St Mirren fans, and one that Rangers will be bitterly disappointed at.
Mark, a couple of months ago, St Mirren gave Rangers a bit of a fright at Ibrox. It ended up 2-1 to Rangers that day. But what makes their approach so effective from what you've seen of them?
Just a very well-organised, difficult team to play against. Some of their parts, they've got pace in good areas. I think Toyosi Olasanya is a real handful for defenders. And they're well drilled under Stephen Robinson. He's been there for a number of years now. They've been on an upward curve under his watch. And that's them now sitting 5th in the league table, and they've become a top 6 team now. They're just a very good side, and what they do is they punish teams when they're not playing well. If you're not at it against St Mirren, you will end up dropping points because they're good at taking advantage of that. I think yesterday was a great example of exactly what they're about, and they're a team proving their confidence right now.
And they brought on 2 17-year-olds. Brave move by Stephen Robinson there, Ryan. When you see the likes of Evan Mooney laying that ball off for Boyd-Munce so competently at the age of 17, how impressive is that for you?
It's super impressive, but I think that kind of goes back to how well the club is run. If you have a new manager that's just walked in the door and he's under a little bit of pressure, he's not really looking at the academy. He's not looking at the younger players coming through. He's just looking at instant results. And I think you see at a lot of clubs, probably Hearts especially, that they do kind of look at that instant success, whereas Robinson's been there for a number of years. So you'd have seen these players from, 16, 17. He would have been able to have them in training with them. So, when people like us who don't watch St Mirren every week then see, oh, there's a couple of 17-year-olds playing for St Mirren. That's amazing. Whereas Stephen Robinson will be thinking, well, I've seen them train for the last 2 years and I know that they're ready. So it's not as big of a risk for him to bring them in because, when you see young players, they do play without fear. They have that little bit of confidence about them and they have that dream of wanting to play and they'll do anything. So if they have a manager that they know is going to be there for a while and is in their ear and training with them, it makes it all the easier for them to just step up and get more opportunities because, like you said, Robinson has the confidence in him to bring them on against Rangers at home and that confidence was paid off with the winning goal at the end.
Mark, he brought those players on. I read some quotes from Philippe Clement saying he could have subbed 9 players at half-time if he was allowed to. Where did it go so wrong for Rangers yesterday? Obviously a bad start with Butland clattering Greg Kiltie.
Too many players just not at their game. A lot of changes to the team, which is to be expected, I think, for Rangers given the squad situation and the fact that they are essentially having to play so many games in a short space of time. I don't think the Rangers squad's equipped for the demands that they're facing right now. And unfortunately for Rangers, they're going to have games where they don't play at their best. They're not like Celtic where they're mechanical. They can't string sustained periods of really good football together. And I think on the back of the cup final, which must have been very demoralising for them, they weren't especially impressive against Dundee the week before. And this squad struggles at times to deal with the expectation of playing for Rangers. And that must be hugely frustrating for Philippe Clement when he tries to eke the best out of this squad. He probably needs fresher faces in January. He's got injury issues now, especially in defence, where Rangers do look weak. And they're 12 points behind Celtic now. They're in such a difficult spot. There wasn't really a title challenge, I don't think. I think what happened, though, yesterday proved that they're miles behind Celtic, and it's going to be a difficult winter for them.
And Ryan, Rangers on the road lost 4 of their 8 away games in the league this season. They do struggle when they're away from Ibrox, it seems, unless it's in Europe when they've had such good results against Nice and teams like that. But Motherwell on Sunday at Fir Park, Motherwell going well. They'll be looking at that thinking maybe we can take something from that game as well.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that Mark says, that they're not at the level to even compete with Celtic in anything. One-off games, and yeah, possibly, but as an overall squad, over a campaign, it's just clear to see how far ahead Celtic are, and as painful as that is to hear for a lot of Rangers fans, it's just reality at the moment. And Philippe Clement said that he doesn't have those types of options off the bench, and like what we said earlier about Stephen Robinson and St Mirren and how well run that they are, it's almost the complete opposite for Rangers, for a club the size that they are, to not be able to cope with the amount of games they have. This season, it's not as if they've just suddenly woke up and they're going to play so many games. Before every season, they understand that if they want to do well in Europe, they want to get to cup finals, this is the amount of games they're going to play. They have to have a squad that's capable and to handle that. Yes, they've had some injuries, but every single club has injuries. So yeah, I think it's a lot on the sort of hierarchy and how the club's run, that he's having to say that he doesn't really have those types of options off the bench when it's we are only in December, and it isn't as if they've had a hugely crazy fixture period.
Okay, we'll park St Mirren 2, Rangers 1 there and move on to events at Tynecastle. Hearts 1, Hibs 2. Hearts confirmed that a supporter was ejected from the stadium and arrested in relation to an alleged racist incident. We'll await further news on that. But in terms of the action on the pitch, positive for the green half of the city. No doubt Liam McLennan from the Hibs Ramble podcast slept with a smile on his face. Decent Boxing Day for you, Liam?
Not bad. Not bad. The best one in 5 years, anyway.
Talk us through how perhaps, were you surprised with the result and how elated were you when the full-time whistle went?
Listen, see, before every derby, I'm saying, we're going to do them in. We're due them one. But yesterday, it was, we were quietly confident, I think. The upturn in form over the last few weeks has been pretty positive. We've shown some really good signs, especially attacking wise, and with the change of formation, going 3 at the back and stuff. So I was a wee bit quietly confident. But at the same time, I always think that once the game kicks off, you're like, oh no, here we go again. But no, I thought we did really, really well in containing Hearts, nullifying all their threats. Admittedly, I don't think it's a very good Hearts team, but you've still got to beat what's in front of you, and we did.
And the Cadden twins, Liam, Nicky Cadden especially, he was involved in absolutely everything yesterday, put in a great ball for the winner too.
Oh, they're magic. I think a lot of Hibs fans thought that when Nicky Cadden signed, he was maybe just being signed as a pal for Chris, but he's been fantastic, really. He's so good at the wing back role. He can play further forward as well. He's so versatile. He's the first player since Stevie Mallon that can put in a half decent set piece. He's been fantastic, and he's on a real good vein of form at the minute.
When I watched the highlights on Sports Scene, the two things I thought about Dwight Gale was when you saw the way he finished that ball, Liam, that's a former Premier League striker. It was such a nicely taken finish. And the second thing I thought at full time when thinking of having you on the podcast as a Hibs fan was how nice it must have been for the green half of the city to see Dwight Gale celebrating the win so much, because he was one of the players that ran right up the other end of the pitch to celebrate in the away end, and it meant so much to him, and that's almost a little bit surprising for a player who's maybe only been at the club a few months.
Yeah, maybe, but I think that there's a real good togetherness with this squad at the moment. You can see that every week, even if the results haven't been there, they're really fighting for David Gray, and they're wanting to do well for him. And I think that has just brought everyone together. We're all in this together. Players, fans, management team. So I'm not really surprised at that. But Dwight Gale, oh my days, man, what a player! He's maybe not got the legs that he had when he was at Palace, but he's still got the football IQ. He's head and shoulders really technically above everyone else that we've got in the squad. Him and Junior Hoyle as well, who never got on yesterday. But Dwight Gale, fantastic finish. I actually thought he headed it, to be honest, from where I was sat. And then I saw the replay and saw that he just opened his feet up and guided it into the corner there. So brilliant finish.
And are you going to spend your Friday looking out the passport for Hibs' foray into European football next season?
Listen, I think third is still on. Still on, Kenny. We've got to be positive now. Obviously, we've put a couple of half-decent results together. So I think we can maybe afford to start looking above us instead of below us. Leaving those smaller teams at the bottom. Ryan, those gangs.
Have your moment. You can have your moment, mate. I'm used to it.
I told all my pals that I'd come on. I wouldn't hold back. So, no, listen.
Keep going.
Aye.
Give me a bit.
Looking the passport out. Aye, maybe if we beat Kilmarnock.
Ryan, we've got to give you a right to reply here. From a Hearts perspective, yeah, clearly disappointing. And how surprised were you that Hearts didn't take anything from the game, or were you surprised?
Yeah, I think that's probably the bad point. Was I wasn't really surprised. I've watched Hearts quite a lot this season, and pains me to say it, but I thought Hibs were really good. I thought when you go into a derby, you want your team to be up for it. You want them to have a bit of dig. You want them to have a bit of fight. You want them to play with a purpose. You want them to look dangerous. And that's everything that Hibs were. And I had a lot of Hibs friends in the away end who were, like Liam said, quietly confident about what they were going to do, but also a little bit nervous. I don't know why it is that the Hibs fans just tend to get a little bit more nervous before derbies, but I thought they played the game perfectly. Like they said, the formation that Hibs play, and then the sort of tactical feelings that Hearts went with the front three to try and, I think, nullify the wing backs, but Hibs then just pushed them higher and wider and were just crisper with their passing, and were able to get the wing backs on the ball, which then meant that the Hearts front three had to kind of come back. then it meant Shanklin was isolated or Wilson was isolated. Hibs were then outnumbered, Hearts in central midfield role. So if they did get it out to the wing backs as the strikers or as they were kind of peeling back, they were so quick at then switching the ball and getting an overload on the other side. And, for Hearts to even go into the game, into the half at 1-1, I think was disrespectful to Hibs. They should have probably been 3 or 4-0 up. And if I was a Hibs fan, I think I would have been disappointed in terms of yesterday. That was the chance to really, put one over them. I think there would have been nobody in the stadium unless you're the sort of hardest Hearts fan that would have thought that, if it was 2 or 3-0 to Hibs, there could have been, no questions asked, because Craig Gordon made a good couple of saves. I think it would have been a disgrace if the Josh Campbell goal was called for off, for not allowed as such. Like I said, Gordon makes a great save from Campbell, makes a good one from Johan with his left foot strike. And there was a period in that I think, Hearts couldn't get out their half, and then, the one time that they do go up, they score. But again, it's probably a cheap goal. It probably reminds Hibs fans of the start of the season when they were kind of conceding sloppy nothing goals. But again, credit to them. I thought the second half Hearts started a little bit better, but they probably couldn't play any worse. But, I always just felt that Hibs had their number a little bit and played with that little bit of confidence, a little bit of arrogance. And I think massive credit, again, as much as Hibs fans probably don't want me to say it, is maybe to the board for keeping David Gray. I think it would have been an easy decision to sort of get rid of him after 7 or 8 games when it wasn't looking good. But everything you could kind of hear and see, I don't watch Hibs every week, but it was when you watched them, you were like, individual errors or they are coach killers. But David Gray had to kind of keep coming out and repeating the same thing, that it's individual mistakes. And as fans, you can kind of get frustrated at being like, why are you not fixing it? What are you doing on the training pitch? But he cannot control those types of players. He has to just keep drumming it in. And us footballers sometimes aren't the brightest sparks in the shop, so it does take us a little while to process what the manager's saying. But it seems to be like that they've now made turned that corner. And I'm not sure they'll be looking for my passport just yet, but I think there's no reason why that they they've, like you said, they've picked up some really good results against teams that that they need to be picking up results if they want to be finishing third. So all credit to them, but I think Hearts are in a lot of trouble. I think yesterday was a big eye opener for a lot of fans in terms of it's new managers come in, we're kind of doing all right, and we've kind of got good players, and we should be doing better. I think yesterday just kind of highlighted the fact that the squad needs a massive overhaul. The players maybe aren't as good as what the fans think, or possibly what they think, and they are in a real relegation fight unless they can go on a run like Hibs. The league is that close. If they can win 4 of the next 5, possibly they'll get out of it. But I think a lot of Hearts fans have been saying that since September, and it's now we're coming into January next week.
Yeah, and the only consolation mark, I suppose, for Hearts is that St Johnstone lost. So St Johnstone still rooted to the bottom on 14 points. Hearts second bottom on 16 points. And on Sunday, they travel to Dingwall to play Ross County, who are 2 points ahead on 18. So just before we move off Hearts, you were at Tynecastle yesterday as well. How tricky a game is that for Neil Critchley up in Dingwall on Sunday?
Very, very tricky for them. They're not playing well, Hearts. There's so many issues in that team right now, specifically at both ends of the pitch, lack of goals, and they really miss Frankie Kent and Stephen Kingsley in defence. They're out probably for the rest of the season. Hearts need to hobble on until January if they can, because Neil Critchley will get backed and he'll be able to bring in some of his players. He is operating with an inherited squad, which is probably one of the biggest mitigating factors for him. But he's under pressure too. Hearts fans are not happy with how they've done under him. And yeah, they need to go to Dingwall and avoid defeat, because if they were to fall 5 points behind Ross County, that would be a very difficult situation for them.
And Liam McLennan, just before we move off Hibs, always a fan of nostalgia. I'm just throwing this one at you off the cuff, but favourite ever Hibs player?
I think it's got to be Derek Riordan. Homegrown, loved a goal against Hearts, could score a free kick, wore the number 1 as an outfield player. He did it all for us.
Okay, Liam McLennan from the Hibs Ramble podcast. Thank you very much.
You're listening to the Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Guys, we've just got a few minutes left, but I really want to get on to Kilmarnock 4, Aberdeen 0. That was an incredible result. Ryan, how surprised were you to see such a lacklustre performance from the Dons? I know they're on a bad run, but yesterday at Rugby Park was really poor.
Yeah, I think I did only catch the highlights, but it looked like it could have been 7 or 8. And the way that this league is this season, you do have the start that they had, and going on an undefeated run and almost a title challenge to now 7 without a win. Again, similar to Hibs, the start of their season, then they've won 4 of the last 5. It is a kind of, I don't want to say confidence league, but when teams are on top, they seem to be grinding out results, and then when teams do start getting on losing a couple in a row, they just can't seem to find that back. But everybody knows that Rugby Park's a difficult place to go, and the way that McInnes has got Kilmarnock playing and the players that he has, they are always a dangerous team down there. But yeah, I think I heard the manager come out and say that was probably by far their worst performance of the season, and I think you can't really question that when you see the highlights and you just see how poorly they played across the board. But they do have enough points in the bank that they can kind of hopefully see this as a blip, but they are going to have to turn that around pretty quickly, because you've got Liam there who's got his eyes on third after they're in the bottom of the league a couple of weeks ago. So the whole league will be looking at that and seeing that Aberdeen are slipping up, and an opportunity to claw back some points and get a sort of real race on for third.
And Mark, a brilliant performance from Kilmarnock on the other hand. Fraser Murray involved in everything, and Bobby Wales' energy up front, and exciting forward for them. So a really satisfying day at the office for Kelly.
Yeah, and we're talking about Hibs' resurgence. Kilmarnock on the same points as Hibs now, and they play each other on Sunday. Been really impressed with how Derek McInnes has constantly rejuvenated his team this season. They've had setbacks, they've had lots of red cards, they've had in different patches of form, but that was a really good performance. I think McInnes said it was almost the perfect performance, and I think they're going to be absolutely fine. Kilmarnock, they should be looking at trying to challenge alongside Hibs to get into that top 6 berth. And what I was really impressed by was the organisation energy of Kilmarnock in comparison to Aberdeen, and I think that was where the game was really won there. They just looked such a more streetwise football team than Aberdeen, and that's the big challenge that Jimmy Tleen faces, trying to get his team back on an even keel. But Killie going in the right direction, and they'll take a lot of confidence in that win. A huge moment for them.
Elsewhere, Celtic were 4-0 winners over Motherwell. Fairly routine victory for Brendan Rodgers' side. 12 points clear at the top. Ross County, 3-0 triumph at Dundee. So that's a first away win in 15 months for the Staggies. So well done to Don Cowie and his team for that. Finally, before we go, it's a big night in the Championship tonight, a big weekend in the Championship. Dunfermline against Falkirk is the Friday night game, and then Ryan, your Livy team, travel to play Wraith, another managerless team, tomorrow. But just one answer from you, Ryan, on Dunfermline Falkirk tonight. This could be a bit of a different game because Dunfermline have let James McPake go. Might be a little bit of a bounce or a different kind of approach from the Pars. How do you expect this one to go tonight?
Well, I've got my Livy hat on, so I'm hoping for a Pars win tonight. But yeah, I do think Falkirk have shown this season that they are a very, very good outfit. They are where they are because of that, and I think they are a really difficult team to play against. But saying that, I do feel like we played Dunfermline a few months ago and got turned over, and I thought they were very good that night. As much as us at Livy were maybe a little bit off it, I thought they thoroughly deserved that victory, and was almost a bit like, why are they not kind of higher up in the league? But having spoken to a few people, that was kind of their best performance, and they've not reached those heights again. So I think if they could put in a performance similar to that, again, it was a night game. I might be clutching at straws, but maybe they're just better at night. So yeah, hopefully a bit of under lights will be a good game. But yeah, I think Falkirk go in their favourites. But as a Livy player, I'd love a little upset there.
And Mark, have you got a Saturday off, or are you going to be trudging along to one of these championship games?
No, the plan is to go to the Kincardine Derby tonight, all being well, because I do, even though East End Park is the coldest press box in Scotland.
Coldest place in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, remarkably. And that'll be a really good game, actually. I'm looking forward to it. Dunfermline desperately to win, and I know Ryan will have all his fingers and toes crossed that happens.
Well, thanks very much, guys. That's all we've got time for. We're really appreciative to Ryan McGowan, who's away to think of Adelaide and the heat over there, and Mark Atkinson is away to start applying his layers ahead of heading to East End Park tonight. Also grateful to Liam McLennan too for joining us. A happy Liam McLennan after that Hibs derby win. Remember, Sports Sound on Saturday and Sunday, Sports Scene tonight on the BBC Scotland channel for Dunfermline, Falkirk, and then with the Premiership highlights on Sunday night. And we'll be back bright and early each weekday morning with the Scottish Football Podcast. Hope you all enjoy your Friday.
Just a quick reminder, the Behind the Goals podcast is available every Tuesday with me, Rachel Corsey, and me, Leanne Crichton. It's your one-stop shop for our take on everything that's happening in the world of football. Just head to BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts and search for Behind the Goals.